those little pieces at the end, and this is going to integrate into her extension style. This won't be so noticeable, but the hair that's in here that's synthetic, I'm going to use a flat iron to melt it so I can see the difference to get it out of there. And then this natural hair will come down over the extensions. As I let the flat iron heat up so that I can heat up the synthetic hair to get it out of the extensions, the hair that's going to be left out. So this thread is a thread that comes in many different colors, and I also use it for French lacing hair extensions, to make the connections so that it ties down. I tie down the knot so that basically this thread is the connection that keeps the hair, human hair and extension hair, connected at the base, at the scalp. I heat up a flat iron to about 250 degrees. This flat iron shows me exactly how hot the iron is, all the way up to 500 degrees. I only use high heat on very thick or very coarse hair, but on her hair I'm using for the purpose of getting the extension out 250 degrees. I also could have used a synthetic hair color that was slightly different than her natural color, and then pick that color out and cut it rather than using the flat iron. Once the hair melts onto the flat iron, it just beads up and you can pick it off of the flat iron and clean it off the comb with your fingers. It doesn't ruin the flat iron at all. I have a ceramic base, tile on my flat iron. This is the only type of flat iron that I would use, so I'm not sure about other flat irons that might be made of other materials, because this is all that I use. And I also use actually ceramic and titanium. Those are the only irons that I use. Also, by flat ironing those pieces that's going to integrate with the extension hair, that's going to help the two hairs blend together perfectly. Because now her natural hair is not so bushy, because her natural hair can be kind of wavy and full. So this is going to refine it down some and make it appear thinner to blend with the extension hair. Now that I've melted most of the hair out of her, most of the synthetic hair out of her natural hair, I go back and clean it up with scissors. I can feel the ends of the synthetic hair. It has a different feel than the human hair, and it's easy to identify, to separate from the natural hair and just trim at the base of those braids, because I want her natural hair to integrate with the extension hair without having any synthetic hair in that equation. At this point of the style, I lift up all the pieces of hair except the bottom piece. I want to pin this hair up out of the way because I'm going to start sewing in that previously used hair. But keep in mind that unless I took each row out at a time, one at a time, and sewed it back in, you can't really reuse that same cut. So typically I might trim off the hair that has been cut into a style on her head previously. And if there's any, let's say if she bought one pack of new hair to go with this previously used hair, I would use that at the very beginning of where I'm sewing on the left, and at the very end where I'm sewing on the right, so that we have new hair to trim into a style or cut into a style. Also, with the previously used hair, you do get some shedding from those wefts, and sometimes we will double up on the tracks or even triple up on the tracks. You will need a hooded dryer for probably 30 to 45 minutes to get those tracks completely dry. If a person doesn't have a hooded dryer, then they need to wash probably every 2 to 3 days using a dry shampoo in between those days. Washing every 2 to 3 days allows the tracks near the scalp to completely dry with no risk of smelling like mildew. Also, no one can come behind me and take my weave out. Only I can take my weave out. I do not use scissors. I highly recommend that the customer do not go to someone else to take my installs out, because I do not use scissors. In this video right now, you can see me unraveling the hair around the edges. Then I'm going to flat iron it so that I can proceed to sew in the hair that I've already flat ironed. I don't need a lot of heat for this process at this point, so I'm still using about 250 degrees, no more than 275. As you see me picking threads off the tracks, that's because the previous stylist sewed them together before she sewed them in her hair. So we're reusing it, and I'm having to take that thread out first before sewing it to her head. As I start to sew the hair, I anchor a knot at the beginning through the track so that I can make sure that it's not going to unravel. And the stitch that I most prefer is the same stitch that a person would use if they were hemming pants. I will make my spaces
for each stitch about 1.5 to 2 centimeters, so that I can be sure that the track will not come loose at some point. However, it's very seldom that my work will come apart, but if it does, I generally will repair it for free. The type of thread that I use is very strong. It's also very thin, and it's not as noticeable as a lot of the thread that you would buy in the local shops around the country. I stopped using that type of thread like soon after really I started, because I buy my hair extension tools from a company in California, and I will not purchase those products locally. I prefer certain types of needles. I don't like the curved needles. I like a short needle that does not have a point on the end. I don't want the risk of sticking the customer with the needle. I talked about shedding on the tracks when previously reusing the hair. How you can reserve the track from shedding is a rubber glue that is made for extension hair. Not the bond glue that you can buy at the local shops, but a rubber glue that actually dries rubber in a rubber formation, and it allows intermeshes with the track and does not allow that track to release hair, so the track does not shed. That has to be bought at a glue company. That's where I buy it anyway. And every now and then I see some of those products in the local shops, but not. They usually will buy a copycat. I don't like copycats. Anything. I like the real deal. So I order my products from the glue company, and it'll have a slight rubbery feel to it after it's dry, and you can reuse that hair if it's in good condition. If the hair is in good condition, 2-3 times if it's worth the money in the first place. I'm allowing her to reuse this hair, but this is the only time that she can reuse this hair. In the future, she will book far enough in advance so that I can order hair from China or India. I typically do not want to do business with people rebuying their hair locally. I think I can get better tracks and better hair by ordering it for the client. At this point where I started using the light colored hair, this is where she and I had a difference of words, because we had already discussed what was going to happen. So in my mind, I don't need to keep going over it over and over again with the customer, because I know we're going to do the dark hair only up to a certain point, and then the light hair after that to blend with her uneven light hair that is damaged and broken off due to her coloring her own hair. But somewhere in her mind, she decided that I should just do black all the way through. But what she doesn't know is to thicken up some of the dark hair, I doubled some of those tracks with that hair that was shedded, because I just thought it was too thin to match her natural hair type. Her natural hair was very, very, very thick per square inch. I mean, she had so many strands of hair per square inch that to compensate for that, she would really feel the difference if I didn't double up on some of those tracks. So by the time I got to the light hair, I'd pretty much run out of the dark hair. And so I was really upset that she was saying, okay, well, just finish it with the black hair. And I'm thinking to myself, this woman is crazy. But I tried to explain to her that I don't do that type of work where we start out with one plan and then we switch up in her head without communicating that to me. And then I don't follow someone's direction, like, okay, now do this. Okay, now do that. Okay, now do this. Okay, now do that. That's not how it works. We're going to talk about this thing beforehand, and then I'm going to do the job as planned. And it also has to make sense to me what we're going to do and how that's going to end. And based on the light hair at the top, it could only end with light hair so that it made sense to me. But when it stopped making sense, that's when she gave me a great deal of anxiety. And no matter what she was paying, it wasn't worth that anxiety. So I had to explain to her what I was going to do. Because at some point she said, well, I'm just going to go home and dye all my hair black. I said, well, you'll also be dyeing this light color hair black also. Because that's what I'm sewing in the top. And that's how I left it.
And when it was all said and done and completely finished, and she looked in the mirror, she said, I love my hair.